Welcome to the Mind Myself podcast. I'm Esther, and it is my pleasure to be bringing you information about healthcare approaches, health issues, and people's health journey stories, all from the complementary, holistic, and integrative perspectives, helping you become your own best health advocate and helping you make your own informed choices because you matter. Welcome to Mind Myself's Conversations with E. I'm Esther, founder and CEO of Mind Myself, and it is my pleasure to welcome our guest today, Ani Papazian. Welcome, Ani.
Hello, Esther. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me here.
So glad you're here. Today, we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic, and I'm going to look at my notes here. Genetics, how your genetic makeup can contribute to your body pain and your overall health. But before we dive into that, tell us a little bit about yourself, Ani, your credentials, and what do you do?
Well, I am a pain resolution practitioner. And for the last almost 3 decades, I've been working with people that have been told their body pain is normal for their age, or living with pain has become their new norm. So I started my journey in this wonderful path, which I mix my passion and my gifts from the universe in bachelor's in kinesiology, medical massage, licensed medical massage therapy, functional nutrition, and advanced translational nutrigenomics. And I'm a forever student, so I love learning. Who knows where I get into next?
Well, that's awesome. Tell us a bit about what is genetic testing and what does it do? Tell us a little bit about that.
So genetic testing in the last few decades has evolving so much more. It's becoming so more available for people. Before they were thought, okay, your genes kind of set in stone. There is nothing you can do about it. Once you have the genes, what else is there? Or it has been used to find out specific genetic, gene mutations for, let's say, people that have, let's say some people have like 6 fingers and the family members have 6 fingers. So let's test to see what gene is it, what genetic variant is it that makes that happen, or other conditions, diseases. That is not what I do. I work with a company that we use genetic testing to find out how does your body react to your environment, the foods you eat, the lifestyle choices you make. Because as humans, we share 99.9% of the same DNA and only 0.1% of different DNA. And that 0.1% is what makes you unique. So we can embrace your uniqueness and create personalized plan that is designed specifically for you. There is no one plan fits all.
That makes sense. And so how does, say, my genetic makeup or your genetic makeup, how does that influence our pain levels or our tendency to injury?
Yes. So with genetically, we're not looking at individual genes. First of all, when we do the genetic testing, we're looking at low penetrance genes. What that means is genes that one individual gene cannot cause a disease. We're looking at the pathways, the combination of genes. So when I'm looking at your genetic report, as a pain practitioner, I'm going to concentrate on where's the injury pathway? Do you have genes, let's say collagen genes, that based on your genetic makeup that you got from your parents, let's say your body will break down bone matrix much faster than it rebuilds it. Or the vitamin D does not convert into active T3. how that can contribute to, let's say, inflammation. Or you have genes that, let's say you have interleukin-6, interleukin-1, you have C-reactive protein, specific genetic variants that combined all of them together makes it so you are more prone to having low-grade systemic inflammation. Now, I want to highlight that your genes, it's not a diagnostic tool, and your genes are not your destiny. Just because you have certain genetic variants, or even if your injury potential is higher based on your genes, you still have to give opportunity to those genes to express themselves. So it just gives us information.
Right. And so what's the interaction between our genes or our genetic factors and our lifestyle choices? How does that work together?
That's where nutrigenetics and nutrigenomics comes in. How the foods we eat can make those genes express themselves. And also the genes we have, the foods you eat, how does our body process? Great example I'll bring you. Myself, when I eat, it takes time from our gut, the message come to our brain that I'm satisfied, right? Well, I have genes in that my satiety pathway, appetite and satiety pathway, that makes it the message from my gut to my brain is delayed. So it takes my body much longer to feel satisfied. And unfortunately, I'm a very fast eater. So I'm very fast eater. So I have to consciously make myself eat slower, because by the time I feel full, I've already overeaten. Even a healthy food, I've overeaten. That's just one of the things. Or for me, the foods I eat, it converts into fat much faster because of the genes I have. Or
Right.
my detoxification is extremely slow because I have certain genes, or I'm actually missing certain couple of enzymes that makes it my detoxification is extremely slow. So what our body does, as amazing design as it is, it will put on fat because that's where it stores the toxins as a protection.
Interesting. And I know you said before, Annie, in another conversation we were having, that you used to be an athlete. You were a runner and a weightlifter. And so, given your genetic predispositions when you were doing all that intensive energy, how was your body different to what it is now in that sense, like genetically?
Huge. So I played volleyball for Armenian national team for 4 years. I was a professional athlete, even though I'm not as tall, but I was considered tall for an Armenian, even though I was one of the shortest people on our team, because our team had several Russian girls, and they were like 6'2", 6'3", and there is Ani 5'7". So but yeah, when I was an athlete, I could, because I was very active, doing trail races, 25-kilometer, 10, 15-kilometer trail races, constantly active, I was burning so much more. But since I stopped all those racing, because I figured, you know what, up until now, my knees are good, my hips are good, let's not push it. So but unfortunately, it correlated also the time when I was going through perimenopause and menopause, and that my metabolism started slowing down with already slow metabolism. And I just put on a lot of weight. But now, as an athlete, I recover very fast. Like when we look at my genetic report, my injury risk is very low. My recovery is very fast. So when I'm looking at a client who, they have a recurring pain, or they just say, I'm trying to, let's say I'm going to go to Europe and I want to make sure I can walk 5-10 miles without hurting my joints, which actually last 2 weeks, I've been working with a client who did just that. She went on like a cooking tour of Europe. I'm like, you're having my ultimate vacation.
That's
She learned
awesome.
how to make the pasta, all these Italian different villages, how to make the handmade gnocchis and all those things. But because they walked so much and dragging, their luggage on the cobblestone, unevenness, her knees were extremely painful after she came back. So when I look at your genetic report, it's like, okay, you are prone to having, especially, let's say, knee injuries, ACL injuries, okay? And your recovery is slow. Well, knowing those things, you may want to prepare yourself more. If you're going to go to, let's say, that type of vacation, then I would do strengthening exercises. I would do type of exercises that will strengthen the supporting muscles. Do strength training to increase the muscle mass of the supporting muscles. So that way you can go do your activities and without having those injuries. But the genetic testing will definitely tell me what is the potential and what lifestyle action steps we need to make so those genes will never express themselves and you can continue having your active quality of your life.
Well, thank you, Ani. I love what you're just talking about, because many women who come to Mind Myself, and men too, or however people identify, they're in their 40s or up, and they're starting to feel these differences in their bodies, like perimenopause or menopause or after, or even men have their own cycles. And we don't talk about that very often, but I think that there are hormone changes for men as well. And so I love what you're doing in this genomic, or however you say it, testing that you can do to go, okay, this is what I'm working with. And these are the steps that Ani can help me with to say, okay, to avoid injury or to prepare myself or then recover faster after. I really, really think this is valuable, what you're offering.
Yeah. Yes, you're totally right. Men go through andropause, even though it's not spoken about much at all, unfortunately, as you said. But also one of the reasons people start having more pain in their 40s, 50s, I love to use this analogy of, think of it, you're sweeping your kitchen or your house and you just put the dust under the rug. Well, for a while, it's not going to show anything. But if you keep doing that, after a while, you're going to see that dust is going to create a pile, right? Our body is the same. It's going to take so much until one day your body just throws in a towel and says, that's it, I'm done. And unfortunately, that happens into our 40s and 50s. And that's
Yes.
where people start getting pain and they're like, I was fine up until now. You're like, no, you started that, you've been contributing to this for the last 20 years. That's
Yeah.
it.
It doesn't usually, unless it's some kind of catastrophic accident, usually
Well, yeah.
usually it creeps up on us, like you say, because in your 20s and 30s, a lot of people can drink a lot more. They can go without sleep. They can eat crappy food. But as you say, in our 40s and up, that's when it starts to catch up to us. And then it's a big bump under the rug, to use your metaphor.
Yes.
So what do we look for, other than the big bump in the rug? What do we look for, or what questions do we ask before considering this genetic testing that you do?
I'm so glad you asked, because that was going to be one of the gifts that I want to give to your listeners, is before you consider getting the genetic testing done, some questions to ask yourself. Do I need it? What is it am I looking for in this genetic report? Because there are so many companies that do. Some companies, they would do genetic testing. They will give you your report, bunch of numbers, and then that's it. Say good luck. Or some companies will do your genetic report and they would just say, okay, based on your genetic report, this is the supplements you have to take. And then you have to pay $200 every month to buy these supplements. But no one's there is answering your questions or explaining to you what your report means. So when you're looking for, find out what is it you're trying to accomplish, want to get from your report. The second thing is, am I ready to take actions on what's going to show up? It also could be very emotional. Like I had a client and she had a few genes that made her more prone to having neurodegenerative conditions. And I thought that was my duty, just to say, okay, you need to be more careful. Just because you have the gene doesn't mean you're going to have the disease. Okay. But knowing you have the gene, like I want to know, thank God I don't have it, but I want to know. So that way you can take action steps so that never give opportunity for that gene to express itself. How many people these days living with all these neurodegenerative conditions, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, if they knew 30 years ago that they had the gene, what actions they would have taken so those genes would never express themselves. So now they never had to deal with it. So, but it could be emotional. So you also have to prepare yourself. Am I ready to hear what it's going to show up? These are the questions you should ask yourself, but also the questions you should ask to the company that you're working with. How are they protecting your, one of the things and questions I get asked from a client, is it safe to do genetic testing? And the company, there are HIPAA laws, but there is also, and I forget but in a handout, it shows it's a special act that prevents for the companies to fire you or not to hire you based on your genetic results, and also insurance companies to use that against you. It's a legal act that they're not allowed to do it. But also one of the main questions you should ask, how does that specific company that you sent your DNA, do they decouple it? Which means they separate your name with you from your data and they destroy it. Do they do that? Decoupling. So there is nothing connects you to that DNA.
And the company that you work with, do they do that?
They do. 3X4 Genetics, they do that. That's one of the reasons I chose that company. But also you want to find out, how is my report going to be interpreted? Is there a qualified person that has any background in nutrition, in nutrigenomics, that's going to break it down, simplify it for me, and not only tell me what shows up, but also the action steps. What can I do? What kind of lifestyle choices I can make so my report makes sense, because it's not a standalone thing. You're going to incorporate with your overall lifestyle plan, your lab tests, your future very unique tests that your genetic report may show that, hey, you need to do this blood test, this very specific blood test. I ask my clients all the time, next time you go see your doctor, please ask them to do this test. They're like, well, my doctor says I don't need it. Ask them to do it. Insist, you're the patient. Ask them to do this test. But that's the information, very, personalized supplements. Sometimes people take so many supplements. I'm like, do you need it? You just have an expensive pee. You don't need to take that,
Absolutely.
So those are the questions.
Totally. I love it. And what occurs to me is, in the past, I've heard things like, so you get genetic testings, you have a predisposition to, say, a neurological disorder or lupus or something. And typically Western medicine will say, well, that's in your genetics, there's nothing you can do. But I hear you saying, Ani, is no, there are things that you can do so that those genes do not express themselves. And that is such a valuable thing to leave our listeners with today, and that they can work with somebody like you if they choose to find out a good test that is ethical and that doesn't sell your data, because we know that that is one of the the highest currency available today is our genetics and our human information that people are selling. So the company that you work with doesn't do that. And they can work with you just to decodify and demystify the tests and go, okay, what can I do next?
That's all done online. That's the beauty of it. The company sends the test kit to your house. It's a simple cheek swab. And then I get the digital report. Then we do a Zoom session where I record it. You get the recording. You get your beautiful 31-page report, and also 3 to 4 pages of the action steps from me.
That's fantastic. Ani, if somebody wants to reach out to you, I know that your information is going to be in the comments. It's going to be below as well. And I actually look forward to working with you. I really want to do this because there are some things going on and I'd like some answers. So thank you for being with us today and all of this fantastic information. I so appreciate you being here on Conversations with E.
Thank you so much for having me here, Esther. I'm very grateful. Thanks.
Thank you for being with us at the Mind Myself podcast today. We know that time is precious and you've spent some of your valuable time with us. We're grateful. If you would like to reach out to our guests directly, the information is below. And if you would like more from Mind Myself, that information is also below. Please visit our website and check out all the information about the different complementary, holistic, and integrative healthcare approaches, information about health issues, more podcasts, tons of blogs, and we even have a community page for you where you could reach out and tell your story safely, or you could ask questions and perhaps somebody else in the world is going through something similar to you. In any case, we're so glad you're with us, and we're doing this because you matter.